What's up guys, Tim Little, Matt Allen, Tacticalbassin. We're going to continue this holiday buying guide video series. We've gotten so many requests and so many suggestions. So today we want to talk about cranking. So we're going to cover everything from squarebilling to deep cranks to reels to rods, and going to kind of lump it all into one video. So why don't you go ahead and start it off?
All right, we'll hammer it out. This was amazingly to us, the #1 request we got was crankbaits. So I'm gonna fire off with, let's go from deep crank on down.
Okay.
Or on up, however you wanna look at it. First rod that I'm gonna talk about, this is a Dobbins rod, it's the 805. 8 foot, 5 power. Both Tim and I really like this rod. It's great for, let's say, well, the 10XD, 8XD, all the way down to like a Norman DD22, 6XD, some of the bigger stuff from the other brands. So it'll get you from the upper end of mid-range cranks all the way to the big baits. Phenomenal rod to fish day after day. This particular one we've paired up with an Abu Aura winch. As you guys know, I use mostly Shimano reels, but this is one of my exceptions. And wouldn't you know it, when I go to another brand, it's to the Aura, which is the lower end version of the winch. Great price point reel. And the reason that we use it is we can cast it like a bullet. You get extra reach out of that reel, and you know when you're cranking, that's an important thing. So that is one of my exceptions. That's a great reel on this combo.
Yeah, I love that combo. I have the Revo winch, the Gen 2 and Gen 3, but that Revo Aura winch is phenomenal reel. I mean, I actually prefer that over the other.
We both use it a lot.
So I use that combo a lot. The one thing we should say about that combo, they do make an 806 CB for the 10XDs, but we actually both like the 805.
We both preferred the 805.
We've played around with the 806. It's just a little, for us, it's a little top heavy, tip heavy, and
it works you. It works you. You know, you throw a 10XD all day, you know it's going to beat you up, right? But when we throw a 10XD all day on that 806, it's almost like the elbow is not real happy about it. And when we do the exact same thing on the 805, that pain's not there. So for us, the 805.
Which is exactly why I started playing around with my combo. This is the Shimano Zodius. This is the only glass rod that I throw. Yeah. It is a 7.6 medium heavy, and it throws the 10XD. It's awesome. No more elbow pain, no more shoulder pain. It's a lot more flimsy rod, and it feels like the rod does a lot more of the work. I went ahead and dumped the money, and I went with the best reel on the market, the Shimano Enteras. You know, this is not a reel for
the faint of heart.
Right. It's got a pretty high price point, but it does a lot of the work. You know, when you're throwing these baits all day, you know, tournament fishing, you're throwing it 3 days in a row, your back hurts, your shoulder hurts, your elbow hurts, your wrist hurts. So that's why I went with a little bit softer rod and the best reel money can buy, and that is my high-end deep cranking setup.
Yeah, and we're not telling you need to go out and spend a fortune on a reel, but what we're saying is cranking is one of those things. I mean, obviously our other recommendation is the complete other end of the spectrum, but it's all about getting that reach, getting that longest distance you can. But cranking is one of those things we do in bass fishing that really does beat you up.
Right.
And it's one of the places where the right reel, whatever that might be, makes a huge difference. It's not just a reel preference thing. It's some reels work extremely well for it and others just don't. And it's no fault of the manufacturer, it's just the way they are.
Right, and both of those reels, that Revo Aura you can cast a mile, and that Enteras you can cast a little bit farther. And with crankbaits, the farther you can cast, the deeper you can get, and you can reach those fish that are untouched.
Yeah. Next one I'm going to jump into, we're going to cross over to a St. Croix. I talked about this in another video. The St. Croix Big Cranker paired up with a Corrado. This is an interesting rod because it's kind of a branch out for me. It's one of my only St. Croix in my personal lineup, but this particular blank, the Big Cranker, is a phenomenal rod for all the in between size crankbaits. I mean, you can throw square bills on it, especially the bigger square bills, but it shines in those baits that are gonna run anywhere in that 5 to 15, 5 to 18 foot range. Just a great rod for it. 7'6", very sensitive, little higher in the price point than some of the other offerings, but if you want a nice rod that is just a pleasure to fish with, that's a great choice.
Yeah, what are we going into next? I don't have a rod selected yet.
Why don't you talk about the 764?
Okay. So one of my favorite mid-range crankbait rods is the Dobbins 764 CB. It's a great all-around rod. You can throw your DD22s, your little shallower XD series Strike King crankbaits, and that's what I use for my mid-range. You know, the 10, 12, 10 to 15 depth range crankbaits. And then
can you hand me that one? Last but not least, this is one of my favorite sticks of all time. I have a lot of these. Tim's got a few of them too. This is a Loomis CBR 845. They have a whole crankbait line, but this is the CBR 845. So that's kind of the middle, the medium heavy 7-footer. This is my square bill rod. I throw my big square bills on it, my tiny square bills on it, but it also is phenomenal when you step over to lipless cranks. When you make that jump, it does both so well. So all my square bills, all my lipless, I throw on the exact same rod. I think I own 6 or 8 of them. And then I pair all those with a Corrado 70. The reason I do that is because when we're talking about square bills and lipless, it's no longer about a depth thing, right? Now you're talking about speed. And I'm able to get that Corrado 70 in an 8-to-1. So when you're working a square bill, you can, if you want to be just hauling, or a lipless on shallow flats, just burning that thing, you can do it. You can also slow it down if you want to be methodical. So it's a reel that lets you cover the whole gamut and a rod that lets you cover the whole gamut in one package. You don't need a bunch of different rods.
Yeah, I agree. My lipless crank, you know, I've spent probably a year and a half playing around with different rods to find the right action to keep those lipless crankfish pegged. And I finally settled on the exact same setup. The Loomis, what model was that again? It's
CBR 845.
845, and the Corrado 70 for speed. Where I differ is my square bills. I throw my square bills on the 704 CB Dobbins rod. It's just tried and true for me. I've spent years throwing it, and it's great for throwing little, you know, BDS 3s, BDS 4s. The River Sea Biggie, I throw all my square bills on that rod.
Yeah. The one other thing I'm going to add, and then we'll wrap up rods if you agree. We mentioned that this is a phenomenal lipless rod. I also really like it for the square bill, but they also offer it. So it's a fairly expensive rod. That's that crankbait line from Loomis. They also offer it, if it's a price point issue, if you want to spend a little less money, they offer it in the E6X series, which drops it down quite a bit. Right. In the exact same action. And crankbaits, you know, sensitivity, it's kind of up to you. It's not one of those things where you really need to feel them clobber it. But of course, if it's a budget and you have the money, you feel them clobber it. But that E6X is a phenomenal price point version of this rod. We'll give you a link to that down in the video description as well.
Yeah, all these products we're talking about, we'll put links down in the video description. One thing we can talk about too, if you're talking about sensitivity, don't be afraid to try braid deleter. That's pretty much how I throw all my stuff. You know, you guys have seen it in other videos. You know, it's pretty cool when you can drop down in a rod price point, but you kind of gain the sensitivity when you switch from fluoro to
right.
braid.
You make it all back in a spool of line.
Right.
Now let's jump into baits.
Yep.
We'll break it up into basically 3 categories. We'll talk about deep cranks, mid-range,
Lipless.
We'll say lipless and square bill, so maybe 4 categories. I'll take the first shot. We'll go deep cranks. Or you take deep cranks. I'll take mid-range.
All right, deep cranks. You know, it's really hard to beat the 10XD. Matt and I, we throw the crap out of this bait. We've caught a lot of big fish on this bait. It reaches that 22 to 25 foot range. You do need to have some of that heavier gear like we talked about, but this is a phenomenal crankbait to get down to those deeper depths.
Yeah.
Some other baits that we talk about that we fish that don't necessarily get that deep. The 6th Sense. This is the 300 DD and the
They also do the 500.
500 DD in the 10XT size. It's a little deeper crank, and the DD22, the Norman DD22. These are phenomenal baits here on Clear Lake, and we catch a lot of fish on these.
Yeah. Jumping into mid-range, and again, these are just recommendations. This is, Christmas time is here. You want to pick up some baits for somebody that you care about, or you want somebody you care about to pick up some baits for you. You just hand this video to them. These are baits that we are very confident in, that we personally catch fish on consistently, both here and when we travel. Mid-range, I'll give you 3 baits. First one, Norman Deep Little N. I think on Tackle Warehouse they actually call that the DLN. They shortened it up, but we'll give you a direct link to that. This is the bait that I was throwing, this particular color called Nutter Butter. This is the one that I was throwing in that first lake exploration video we did this summer, where we went out to a new lake that we hadn't been on and just broke it down from scratch. That's the bait I was catching all those fish on. The next one, Rapala, whatever you want to call it. The DT series, the DT10, the DT16, both phenomenal baits. Both baits that have a place in my arsenal. And then the last one that we don't see get much love, but I personally throw it a lot, is the River to Sea Goon. The Goon is a little bit different bait. It takes some tuning to dial that bait in, but that's a bait that once I get it dialed in, I crush with it, and I don't see a lot of people throw that bait. It kind of pushes the limits of what a bait in its size range can do. So it'll take a little getting used to it, but it's a big fish bait. I've stuck a bunch of nice ones on that.
Yeah, if you're wondering why we're suggesting so many different brands and so many different crankbaits, one thing with crankbaits is they all work differently. They have different actions, they reach different depths, and you got to play around with a handful of them to figure out what your fish want.
And it's a price thing too. I mean, when we did the swim bait video, we gave you 5 recommendations coast to coast. When it comes to crankbaits, we're not going to do that, right? We're like, here's 20 baits that are all proven, and you can afford to buy them.
Right.
Buy 20 instead of 5, it's less money, and you've got a run of baits that you can go out and stick fish in different conditions. Why don't you do Squarebills, and I'll do Lipless at the end.
Squarebills, from previous videos, you guys know that I love throwing Squarebills, covering a lot of water quickly and finding those active fish. 2 of my favorite Squarebills to throw are the Lucky Craft BDS series, the BDS 3s and 4s, and the River to Sea Big East. They come in a bumpin' and a creepin' series that has to do with sound or vibrate or rattles and no rattles. But 2 phenomenal Squarebills that you can't go wrong with.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many Squarebills on the market, but almost all of our Squarebilling comes down to one of those 2.
And also, I don't know, I haven't checked, but Tackle Warehouse has the sales on those RTO Squarebills.
Yeah, if they're still in stock, you can kill it on those. They are cheap.
Yeah, they half the price. So we'll put a link in there in the videos as well. But those are great Squarebills for the price.
Yeah. Last but not least, Lipless. There's tons of good Lipless out there. We'll just do 2. One, Strike King Red Eye Shad, which I'm not holding in my hand because it's in a box in the boat, and I don't feel like going to get it. But that's a bait that we all know works really well. And if you were just going to pick one, that new 2-tap we've both been seeing success with, that's a great choice. And then last would be the Lucky Craft LV500. This out here is a bait that just crushes it, and every time we travel, we crush it. Out here, it's like there's 100 of them in every boat. And when you go east, that doesn't seem to be the case. But every time we go out there, those fish eat them just like the fish here do. So that Lucky Craft LV500, definitely our #1 Lipless.
Right.
And then we'll also, in the video description, give you just some general color recommendations too, because some of these baits only come in 4 or 5 colors. Some of them come in like 40 or 50, right? So we'll give you some general color recommendations there too. But I think that'll about wrap it up. We appreciate you guys putting in the request for this video. It's something that we both enjoy doing. There are so many options, but these are baits and these are rods that no matter where you go, they work. And we're confident about that. I think that's it.
Yeah, real quickly, we keep getting all these comments and messages about our clothing and our hats. If you just email us at Tacticalbassin gmail.com. We'll get that and we'll get another order out. But again, thanks guys. Thanks for all the recommendations, the comments, and the likes. And we'll talk to you soon, guys. Have a good one.
Have a good one.